Big Taz.
Hey, what are the chances that like Hulk Hogan or Conor McGregor show up in this Royal Rumble?
No and no.
No and no. I'm just looking at the odds, man. They have odds out there for who's going to win this Royal Rumble, and there's some names that I'm looking at. It's like these guys aren't wrestling. They're not jumping into the ring.
Listen, Tiki, let me tell you something,
Shaquille
bro.
O'Neal
You could,
plus 25,000.
You could gamble. You could gamble on a lot of things. I assure you, do not gamble on pro wrestling.
Good point.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
Very good point.
Hey, Taz, before we get into the card and talk about your show coming up, and I just plugged it before, we lost a great one. We lost a really important one, too, pretty recently, in Jimmy Superfly Snuka. He's not going to go down as the best, that's for sure, but in terms of impact, in terms of the aerial assault and really changing the tactical approach of the sport and the events, boy, Jimmy Snuka was one of a kind, huh? You probably knew him pretty well. Give us a thought on Jimmy if you can.
Jimmy and I actually, when I was coming up, the early days in ECW, he and I were a tag team. He was obviously the veteran, and we had a little run together as a tag team in ECW in Philadelphia early on, and I learned a ton from Jimmy. Just always was a great guy to me. He definitely, to your point, was a pioneer for a lot of high flyers, for sure. I mean, the iconic, amazing, legendary moment of him jumping off the cage at Madison Square Garden, everyone knows that picture in their mind, but Jimmy was definitely, during that era, so many guys with these gigantic, big, hulking, 6'9", 6'7" guys that were 300-400 pounds, and Jimmy was that guy who was a ripped, muscular guy but athletic. So he was kind of ahead of his time. Now today, all these wrestlers, all these athletes have to be athletes, and it's a big part. You have to be athletic. Where back in the day it was big lumbering guys, where Jimmy kind of was ahead of his time. So a pioneer for high flying and athleticism in pro wrestling.
Yeah, and I don't know if you would agree with this. I always thought, he obviously wasn't particularly good on the microphone. He had an ominous, a very dark, understated delivery, which worked in certain instances, like with Morocco, et cetera. If he was more vibrant on the microphone, Jimmy Snuka is going down as one of the top 5 or 6, 7 wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, no doubt, and you're exactly right, Brendan. He really did not have a lot of good mic skills at all. And I think Jimmy, if he was still alive, he'd be the first to tell you that. But he would have. I think that's a very valid point. If he would have had the complete package of a true sports entertainer, no disrespect towards the guy, but that would have really, I think, galvanized him as a top-level, top 5 guy of all time.
Yeah, probably hurt Ricky Steamboat as well. We're talking to Taz, a similar template from Snuka in that regard. Of course, Taz, host of the Taz Show, be on the work, doing work here over the weekend. Sunday, we've got Royal Rumble, and Taz will once again host. That's post-Royal Rumble from 11 to 2 Eastern right here on CBS Sports Radio.
Taz, first time we had you on, we asked you about Roman Reigns and if he was going to win the title. You nailed it. You got it right. He did. So as we look at this Royal Rumble, 22 of the 30 competitors have been announced. The Undertaker is the one that I think jumps out to a lot of people, but who benefits most if they win, and who does we think WWE, almost said F, who WWE wants to win this?
I think who's going to win is a guy that's not announced, and it's one of the, I believe it's 8 slots open, and I think it's going to be a young man by the name of Finn Balor. And Finn was the first ever Universal Champion when he created that title earlier in the year. And then he had to relinquish it, I believe, like the next day on Raw due to injury. He got hurt, blew out his shoulder pretty bad, and stuff inside of his body messed up a little bit. But he's rehabbed. I believe he's good to go. And they haven't officially said it. I think he's going to be a surprise entrant. But I think Finn Balor is the guy who wins. He's a young man from Ireland who's got a lot of experience, and he's a tremendous competitor. So he's my pick to win. I think he's going to be the surprise entrant. I'm putting myself out there. I think he's going to win it. I do not think Undertaker will win. I do not think Goldberg will win. I do not think Brock Lesnar will win. I mean, it's a star-studded, Royal Rumble for sure. Randy Orton's in this thing. Bray Wyatt, Cesaro, Sheamus. They got so much talent in this thing. Chris Jericho, all 3 members of the New Day, the whole 9 yards. A young man who I like that is announced that I hope comes down to be in that Final 4 or Final 3.
Who's that?
Is a guy by the name of Baron Corbin, and he's a big cat, probably about 6'5", 6'6", and he's kind of like a throwback because of his size, muscular guy, but very quick, very agile, fleet-footed guy, super athletic, Golden Gloves guy, good with his hands, great look. I think he's a guy that they love, and he's a guy they're going to kind of push towards the end of that thing in the Final Four or the Final Three. But I think Finn Balor's the guy who wins, in my opinion.
I was going to say, if you're looking to give somebody a push, this is obviously one of the main spectacles to do that. You know, I was doing a little research, to be fair, and I've listened, you know this, and our audience knows this. I've got this monster disconnect from my childhood where I absolutely inhaled everything about wrestling to now where lukewarm, although I'm starting to get into it a little bit more than I was a couple of years ago. But I did not know this. Help us with this. For the 30th anniversary now for the Royal Rumble, and by the way, we're talking to the great Taz here on Tiki and Tierney. Back in '87 in St. Louis, which, as you well know, back in the day, very rich and very deep wrestling roots, they actually had the first Royal Rumble, I guess. And the one-man gang won it, allegedly. Nobody really saw it. It wasn't on TV and only 2,000 people in the building. But then I guess the company went and did it again roughly a year later, and that was when Hacksaw Jim Duggan won it. So, first of all, am I right with that, you know, the chronology of that? And secondly here, Taz, if the first one was such a bomb, why were they so willing to do it again?
Well, a couple things. First off, bro, like anybody who listens or watches my show every day knows the last thing I'm not a historian, okay? But I do know my history to a degree, but not a historian. I remember what you're talking about. I heard something about that. The thing is, why they would do it if it were kind of, you know, bombed in essence, a lot of times what they do, the company does, and this has been going on for ages, is they try different things out on house shows, or some call them live events, where there's no TV cameras. So we could try things out, do different stuff, see not just how the audience reacts. You know, believe it or not, they don't care. Maybe that's an exaggeration. I shouldn't say they don't care. They're not as invested in the audience at a house show or live event, maybe not liking something that they're trying, because they know they'll try it cold and they see how they, like Vince McMahon and his people, how they like it, and then they push the hell out of it, whatever that may be, on TV, because they know that they have the audience trained, and that's just good promotion, where they could book and market anything and get it over, and it's just about, not anything, I don't want to exaggerate, but they're really proven in that.
Huh. It's almost like a young comedian, or not even it's almost like Seinfeld or whatever comedian, whomever you want, you know, anybody. I'm not even a Seinfeld. I don't even know why I said Seinfeld. But
I love Seinfeld. Why? What do you got against Seinfeld, Brendan? He's the best.
I don't think he's that funny, Taz.
Oh, come on.
He's not funny at all.
Are you kidding me?
What?
Oh, he's hilarious.
Wait, Taz, if you strip away, all right, now we're talking about the TV. I know it's separate from his actual individual act. I get that. But specific to the show, listen, I mean, I've got respect for him. The guy's a pioneer. There's no doubt. He's one of the, you know, in terms of history, we'll remember him as an icon. But that show, if you strip away the pieces around him, I never laughed at him. I don't think he's very funny.
I do not think you're in the majority.
I don't think I am either. That's fine.
I'll tell you this much, though, before we move on here, because I have to defend my friend Seinfeld. I never met. I don't know the guy personally, but I do like him. But I'll tell you this about him. Something that you guys got to think about that he did that's very, very impressive.
Go ahead.
He would do his stand-up routine, and while all these other guys, these great legends like Dice Clay and these other guys were cussing left and right, he was funny without using vulgarity and cursing, and that's even harder, as you guys know. And he did it. He had success as a stand-up guy without vulgarity and cursing and going over the top of it. He really did.
Yeah, but Taz, here's the problem. I like vulgarity. So that's why I don't think he's down there.
Then that's why you don't like Seinfeld. What do I want to tell you?
And listen, by the way, that's actually a very good point, because it's very hard to get, especially now, to get people to laugh if it's not crass. And I'm not trying to take away from his legendary status. I just, listen, do I think he's drop that hysterical? No, and I've never thought that. And just because you're Taz, and just because you're big, I'm not going to back down and apologize to you there, tough guy. How's that sound, Taz?
Yes, I love it. I love it. It's great. You know, I play. This is the last time. I don't know if it was the last time I was on. The one time I was on the show, and you guys had Roman Reigns on the phone right before me, and I was in the studio.
Yep.
And Tiki, you asked Roman if you said, "Hey, you know Taz, by the way." And then he kind of like blew it off.
He was like, "Peace, I gotta go. See y'all."
Yeah, I know. He's like, "Peace." No, he said, "Yo, they counting me down like he had to get out of there." So, bro, somehow, some mysterious way, we got that audio on my show about a year or whatever, 6 months ago, and we play that bite all the time.
Nice.
So,
That's funny.
Love it. Love it. That is Taz, our good friend Taz. Of course, he's going to be on the airwaves on Sunday night, Royal Rumble post-show. And it's going to be on from 11 p.m. to 2 Eastern. And as you can tell, he has fun. And he's an entertaining guy. Give him a listen. Taz with us here on Tiki and Tierney.
Hey, Taz, tell us about this 6-woman tag team match that we have going on. Becky Lynch, Nikki Bella, Naomi versus Natalia, Mickey James, and Alexa Bliss. What's happening with that? I'm watching that.
I hear you, bro. I hear you. I know what you're saying. No, but I got to tell you. No, I hear you. But here's the thing with it, right? All kidding aside, like, you know, the thing is, like, to me, from an analyst perspective and a former wrestler's perspective, I got a little problem with the booking of it. I mean, sure, you would think, all right, 6 hot girls, what do you got a problem with? I get that. But for a casual fan, that's what they would say. They're looking at the sexuality of the girls. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But you got what they did here is they buried Alexa Bliss, who's the female, the women's champion, and they kind of they buried her in this thing amongst 5 other girls instead of giving her a platform to accentuate her talents and defend her title in a singles match. As a former champion, I got a problem with that. So that's the kind of stuff where
interesting.
You know, I don't sell the propaganda of WWE. I sell my feelings, my real opinions. And the other thing, though, yeah, I understand it's 6 hot chicks. I get it. But, you know, I know we're having fun with it in that regard. But, you know, the women's wrestling, women's abilities have really changed over the past 7, 8, 9 years, maybe, where it's really the athleticism, the ability, the in-ring technicalities that these girls use. It's not just a TNA sideshow like back in the day. It really isn't, which is kind of cool. These girls can go, I'm telling you.
No, you're right. And, you know, the first woman that I remember was, and she is a legend, and she's passed on, it's the great, fabulous Moolah. And no disrespect to Moolah, but Tiki just piped up some images here on Google, and these girls ain't no Moolah, that's for sure.
No, not at all. hey, Charlotte is fighting, correct? Who's she failing?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Charlotte, now you talk about an athlete. Before we talk about her match, like Charlotte, she's fighting a girl named Bailey, right, because they're from the Raw brand. Yeah. And okay, real quick, now Bailey's like the girl next door type thing where she's like a, oh, golly gee, shucks type of, good, baby face, as we call her, good girl, where everyone loves her. All these young girls look up to her, which is awesome. She's excellent in the ring, former NXT champion. She's legit. Her promo work, her mic work, she's very humble. That's her whole shtick, Very, very humble, ponytail, the whole nine, but she's tough as hell, which is pretty cool. Where it's a great story, because then you get Charlotte Flair, who obviously is Ric Flair's daughter. Yeah. So she's born into the business, second generation, royalty in the business. She comes off her gimmick. Her gimmick is she's entitled. Her dad made one phone call. She became a WWE superstar. That's the shtick. Where this other girl she was a fan. She came up the pike a fan. They show pictures of her with other wrestlers. Great storytelling by WWE with these two girls.
Yeah, we met her. She was in the studio. I don't know if we had her on air. We had Rick on air. We had Flair on air. Yep. And I think Charlotte was with him that day. So we got a chance to meet her. She's a cool girl.
I can see that playing out. That's actually a pretty smart, savvy play of emotions where I get it. That's actually interesting. It's amazing what people. I'm not trying. It's amazing what people believe. Yeah. It really is amazing how these storylines they become real. It's crazy. It's just great work.
You know the deal, right? No matter if you're a wrestling fan or not, look, it's like a movie. They're actors. You know what's going on, but you get invested in the story. Yep. And so, if you just can't insult people's intelligence as a promotion.
Hey, Taz, we have about 15 seconds. Kevin Owens, the Universal Champ, versus Roman Reigns. Who wins?
Reigns.
Kevin Owens.
Wow.
Kevin Owens wins.
All right.
He wins.
John Cena versus the WWE Champ, AJ Styles. Who wins?
Styles.
AJ Styles all the way.
So the belts remain the same. Taz, we appreciate you, brother.
In that regard. Yep. Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on as usual, bro.